So this is like a TV movie scene. Hey, Trailhead North, we're so excited that you're here and you're joining us this morning. We got some great announcements. This is for all of us, period. So the first announcement is this. The first announcement, we have a Pathfinders party tonight at 5 p.m. If you're new, we're so blessed to have you. If you're visiting today and you're thinking, I want to know a little bit more about this church, well, tonight is actually a perfect opportunity. And if you've been with us for a while and you have not been to a Pathfinders party, then we would encourage you to sign up at the end of service. You can go to the tent to your right and find out how to sign up. And obviously at Trailhead North, you can go out in the lobby and sign up there. But tonight, 5 p.m. here at the church, all the staff will be here and you can ask tons of questions, find out more about the church. We'll have some light refreshments at the end, and it is an awesome opportunity to find more information about Trailhead Church, so you can find out if this is your place called there and discover your unique design in Christ, so that we want to use you. We want to get you involved and find a place called home. So tonight, 5 p.m., Pathfinders party. Also, we have VBS coming up July the 24th through the 26th. Guys, VBS is awesome. This is going to be super cool. Listen, our children's pastor, Miss Christian, she does such a fantastic job. And those kids, man, I'll tell you what, they come out with smiles on their face. They start with smiles on their face, and when you pick them up at the end of the evening, they are on cloud nine. I tell you what, it is super cool. So make plans for that. We really encourage you to sign your child up, so you can do that also at Next Step. So on your way out this afternoon, to your right, and also obviously in the lobby for Trailhead North. Okay? So there's our two announcements, and then we have a big announcement. And so here's the big announcement. If you are visiting with us today, or if you've been visiting with us for a few weeks now, you're gonna be like, what? Hold on, time out. I don't have time to do the whole backstory for all of you guys, but I'll tell you this. We have been believing God for big things. We've been at 3 services. We have our 4th service down at Trailhead North at the movie theater downtown in Graham Cinema. So over the years, we've seen growth. Obviously, at the 8:30 service, you're looking around, you go, we got plenty of room. You're correct, but you're a morning person, and not everyone's a morning person. Okay, but come 10 o'clock, this place is packed out. And come 11:30, it's pretty full as well. So that's why we went to 4 at the Graham Cinema. So we've been here going on 7 years, which is just awesome. And this church has been a great facility to hold us for those 7 years, but we've learned over time that this isn't our final resting place. And we've talked to contractors and we've looked at it time and time again with expansion. It just doesn't seem to work out. So we have placed our building up for sale, which we did that this past August, actually, September there. And over the course of the year, we've had multiple people look at it. Well, this past week, we actually got an offer, and we signed on the dotted line. And so we are in selling mode. That's when this is the cue for everyone to clap. So we are thrilled. We got exactly what we wanted, and some in our head, so we can walk away super pumped and excited. So you'll say, what's this mean? For some of you that are super organized and you want strategic planning, here we go. Here's some strategic planning. We are in a 60-day due diligence with a 15-day to close. So what that is meaning, they have 60 days of due diligence, and then they have 15 days to go to the bank or to go to the law's office, and we'll sign and do all that kind of stuff, and then it's a done deal. Now, we are very sure that this is a done deal, knowing the group that's coming in. I'm not going to go through all the details of who that group is. I'm not for sure they want me to announce that publicly, so I'll let them announce that. It is not another church. It is a business, a very reputable business that we're super pumped to take over this facility for sure. With that said, 60 days. Now, we have a lot of stuff in this church, a lot of stuff, and we know that we've got to do this smart. So we've been praying for over a few months now, talking about this, knowing this group was looking at this facility. So we are very confident in our plans. 60-day due diligence. Our biggest growth months are August, September, and October. So we know that we need a really good, firm location that we can point people to as we grow in those months. It would be devastating to point people to this facility only to be gone within a few weeks, and then there'd be some kind of confusion going on. So we have decided to have a huge, giant family service. Remember, we did this for Passover Sunday, which everyone thoroughly loved. So we're going to do a party at the park on August the 13th at 10 a.m. So August 13th, it will be a one giant service at Bill Cook Park. Obviously, it'll be just like Passover Sunday. We're going to have baptism. We're going to have all sorts of fun. You guys bring the side dishes. We'll bring hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. And it's just going to be a fun-filled day. And we want you, obviously, to sign up to be baptized as well. Any of you in this room that are considering that decision, we would love for you to sign up. You can do that at Next Steps. Obviously, Trailhead North, you can do that on the lobby. So that day will be a really fun-filled day. Now, if you think about it and you think, okay, so what's next? Well, then on August the 20th we're calling it The Journey. All of us, we are moving to the Graham Cinema permanently. When I say permanently, for like the next few months. It's not a permanent situation, but we will be moving into the Graham Cinema, all of us. So we will have two services there at the Graham Cinema at 9:15 and at 11 o'clock. Those are our two services, 9:15 and 11 o'clock. There's plenty of room to house us all. The youth center, as already, is being converted to our children's department. Well, guess what? We're going to be losing our church offices. We're going to be trying to find a new location for our church offices. But we're going to convert those into kid spaces to have enough room for all of the kids, for the whole church, because we know that the Graham Cinema seats plenty, but the youth center is a little tight even right now with the smaller numbers that we have. It's kind of loud, especially for babies and infants. So we're going to put the infants in the offices and all that stuff. So we'll make plenty of room, and we'll obviously make sure that our decorations, my surfboard will not stay up in my office for the nursery. Okay, so don't worry. But it will be awesome. It will be accommodating to our children, and we will still convert that back into our youth space on Wednesday nights. So for you that have sewn into the youth center and want it to be a youth center, it still will be a youth center. Just every Thursday, we will convert it into a kid space for Sunday morning. So 9:15 and 11. So you start calculating, you're like, okay, so August 6th is our very last Sunday here at this location. So August 6th, very last day. August the 13th will be a Bill Cook Park big fun family day with all of us gathering together. And then August 20th, we will be at the Graham Cinema with you guys at North. Now, there will be no longer North or West, okay? We are coming together. Some of us said, what do we want to name this? So we just named it The Journey so that we can always just point to that with a journey on August 20th when we move. We wanted it to, so my name's Joshua, right? So our worship pastor, his name is Caleb. So what was more fitting for us to want to name it? We wanted to name it Exodus. When you got a Joshua and Caleb on staff, right? But then when you have a David on staff, he's past the Exodus, so he doesn't want to talk about that. So David's all about the journey because he's all about trying to bring the ark back in. So anyway, so that's a whole biblical story that's really nonsense. Anyway, for us, nonsense today. So the journey, that's what we're going to call it. Guys, listen, this is really exciting for all of us. We know that this is big steps for some of you who are comfort individuals. I love comfort, you know, I love plans, but guys, this has to happen. We have no way around it. We have outgrown our facility time and time and time again, and I just can't put in a fourth service here at this location. And I think we all realize that we want to be back at two services. We'd like to be back where we have some more grip on our volunteer base of what we have. We have a great volunteer base, but we are spread thin at times, and this is just more fitting to our particular needs. So Graham Cinema, it's awesome. They are thrilled. The owners, Chuck and Jennifer, have been so great and gracious with us to help us out in all of our needs over there as well. So it's going to be a good move. It is not permanent. Some of you are like, hold on, Where do we go from there? We are currently looking at another location to renovate and call ours. I'm not in the business to tell you guys that right now because I don't want to give you false hope and expectations. We're still in talks and negotiations ourselves. But just know that we are making sure that this is going to be perfect for us right now. So how fun is it to look back and see God say, hey, you need to get the Graham Cinema. If I had to work with the Graham Cinema right now and all of the plans to try to get a service and move 450 people to the Graham Cinema and also try to think about a permanent location, I would go nuts. So it's so awesome to see God raise people up through Trailhead Church over at the Graham Cinema to run and operate that particular. So you guys have not worked in vain. You guys have prepared the promised land for us to move over into. And I really appreciate Trailhead North and all that you guys are doing. Clearly, you guys are cooler. We just want to be with you. That's what it's all about. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so cool. So get excited because seeing what God's doing is just super cool. I mean, it's just super cool. So that leads me into this morning's message. We're in the book of Kings, and we've been talking about it for a few weeks now. And in the book of Kings, the great synopsis is there's kings who really don't know what they're doing because men had chanted, give us a king, give us a king. And God said, all right, I'll let you be ruled by kings. And with that comes error. And with error, there's correction. And we see that prophets were raised up and prophets come out of this and they kind of course correct and help kings at times. And we see God's wrath. We see God's provision. We see some great, just practical steps that we should all take in our walk with Christ. And that's what really what I'm trying to bring out this morning. Because I think a lot of you are having some issues. And I don't say that in pointing fingers, saying a lot of you have issues. I'm saying myself included in this. We have trust issues. We have some moments of clarity issues. And I really want to bring out what it means to trust God this morning. I think a lot of us may be in that situation where we're asking the question, what's next? What's our purpose? And God, why am I doing this type of deal? So in 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 9 through 14, there's a phenomenal story of a man named Naaman. Now, he was a commander of an army of Aram, and King Aram. And with this, he was a pretty cool commander type of deal. They don't tell much about him, but obviously he was someone who was trustworthy. And he had been stricken with leprosy. Now with leprosy, what we know about this is that your skin kind of turns white. It's scaly. It's kind of nasty type of a deal. And it's uncomfortable. And with that comes some embarrassment. And he's got his armor on and all that kind of stuff. And it's uncomfortable. He can't really function the way he wants to function. Well, come to find out, there was a woman in the kingdom that was brought in. She was a slave woman out of Israel, and she knew about Elisha. Now, she was so cool in the fact that she was like, oh, he's sick? He needs to go see Elisha. He'll get healed. I love the faith and confidence of telling somebody. Now, here's a slave girl speaking up out of turn, telling a commander in the army to go and do something with faith of knowing how good her God is, and she's a slave. Super awesome. There's a little story within that for sure. So she speaks up. Sure enough, King Aram, he says, hey, I'll send word down to the king of Israel that you're coming. King of Israel gets all offended and all that kind of stuff. There's another story within that. But that leads us to verse 9. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed. Love this. But Naaman went away angry and said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot and cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? So he turned and went off in rage. Naaman's servants went to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. So what I love about this is this preconceived notion of he's going to come out, he's going to say a few words, point to God, and then wave his hand over the spots, right? And then they'd be healed. How many of us have, in our own understanding, have prayed a prayer wanting relief, wanting some kind of answer or clarity of some sort, and then when we receive what we're supposed to do, or maybe it might be something so subtle in the sense of rest, wait, sit, completely just trust, right? We sit here and go, but it would have been so much easier if God would have just waved his hand over the spot. If God would just do this, because you start putting in your own thoughts and understanding the human ways of stuff. If God would just give me $5,000, then I'd be stress-free. I'd have all that I'd need. If God would just give me this door to open, if God would just send someone to me, if God would just give me a wife, if God would just give me a husband, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, right? If God would just do this, and we just get really caught up in our own understanding and not God's understanding on this. And it's super sad because I ask the question, how often do we ask this? Is God, how much longer is this going to go on? That's the first question we typically ask. Second question is God, when will things get better? And the third typical question we ask is, God, give me a sign of what I should do or what we should do. And we just sit on those questions. We don't move. We don't do anything. We're just kind of like, hey, God, I need this. I need clarity. I need clarity. But what if it's not that you need more clarity, but that you need more trust? What if it's something in not clarity from God, but it's trusting in Him? What if it's just sitting back and going, all right, I've got to learn to trust God. You just say, how do I trust God? What is it that I should do? Is it sitting there and gritting my teeth and clenching my fists and just say, I trust God? Because what we see with Naaman is, we see this guy that his servants clearly said, what if he would have told you to do some grand thing, like walk 500 miles and climb some giant mountain? You probably would have done something like this, something great, because you would see like the great magnitude of it. But this is something actually simple, and you scoff at the fact that you have to go dip yourself in rivers that or in a river that's not as clean as you would like it to be. What if God told you to do something small? You know, I've seen it multiple times within churches. I've seen people that want to do great big things, but they're not willing to do small, tiny things. There's been moments where I've seen people, I've actually had someone say, hey, I've never met them in my entire life. It was their first Sunday in, and they said, hey, I've got a prophecy, a word for your church. And I'm like, here's a broom. And not to belittle them or not to put them in their place, but it was like, hold up. Like, not that I need to see you do something small or petty, but you're trying to say that you have something big. I had another individual come to me one Sunday and they go, hey, I have a song to sing. And I've never met them in my entire life. And they said, I got a song to sing. And I go, what's that mean exactly? And they go, well, I like to sing this song this morning. And I go, miss, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about you, and I don't know what that song is. You could get up there and sing an Adele song, and I don't even know what that song is. You know, it could be Beyonce, Rihanna. Who knows what it could have been? It could have just been a song, and I've been like, hold up, right? I mean, Taylor Swift could have been like blown out here on Sunday morning. And I was like, no, I don't know this song. I don't know you. I don't know anything about what you want to do. And they go, but what I'm trying to get at with this situation or these stories is that there's a lot of folks that want big things. They'll do big things, but there is not a moment to say, all right, God, I trust you in the small things. God, what is it that I need to do? A lot of us always want the big stuff, but there's small things that have to take place before those big things take place at moments. But in this particular story with Naaman, he'd be willing to do big things, but God's just asking him to do something small, and it's a trusting factor on both ends. It's trusting God, and it's trusting yourself. God's looking at you going, okay, can you do this? Can you do this small thing? I'm not asking you to do something. And what you thought I was going to do, it's not necessarily what I'm going to do. I'm not going to just have some prophet wave a hand over you and just, say a few words. I'm asking for you to go, and this is going to be the cure. This is what it's going to be for you. Are you willing to trust? Are you willing to trust him? I don't know what it is in your own life, whether it be a new job, a new location, a new situation, a new school, a new relationship, whatever it may be. Are you willing to trust God and what he's going to have for you? Are you willing to say, God, whatever it is? Are you willing to study out his word in those moments where you feel unwavering? Or are you more likely to go to friends? Because see, a lot of times when we get into that issue of, I need more clarity from God, really you need more trust, but you're sitting here going, I need more clarity. So instead of actually going to God for clarity, you end up going to friends. If you've ever read the book of Job, you found that he's lost everything. Everything. The first chapter is horrific. The second chapter is horrific. It is an awful, awful first two chapters of a book. When you start reading it, you just go, holy moly. It was servant after servant would report to him, such and such died, such and such got stolen, such and such this, that. Before you know it, he's just sitting there up in arms of like, what's next? This is miserable. And then his friends come to comfort him. Now, at first you see his friends come and arrive and you think, oh, this is going to be cool, right? Here comes his friends, and his friends are super nice because they don't say anything to him. They just sit. They comfort him and just being in his presence of just wanting to be there. And then they start opening their mouths. And I love what Job says about his friends. Job is so awesome. Job in chapter 16, verse 2, he actually says, I have heard many things like these. You are miserable comforters. You are miserable comforters. All of you, with an exclamation point. All of you are miserable comforters. Because that's the sad part about it, is when we start needing actual clarity, there's nothing wrong with clarity, but I believe really we get it confused with just trusting God. And with lack of trust comes the more of, I need more clarity, I need more substance to give me, to sustain me on this path that I'm on. So you start yelling out to God, God, give me clarity. But then while you're in the midst of doing that, you ask your friends, hey, what do you think God's telling me? And what do you think I should do? Hey, God, or hey, friends, this is happening in my life. I should go to Match.com. No, you should go to FarmersOnly.com. Right? Like before you know it, people are trying to give you all this advice, and you're like, hold on, right? Like, God, what do you have for me? God, what is it? Because Jeremiah 29:11, which we all know very well, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, to not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you, and you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. You know what God says in the very beginning of this? He says, I know the plans I have for you. He does not say, you know the plans that I have for you. Now, this is not God's evil way or conspiracy, because God's not evil to begin with, by the way, okay? But there's this idea that God's trying to keep you from this because there's this giant puzzle piece. No, God is saying, though, I have the plans for you. I know those plans, all right? Now, when you begin to trust in me, when you begin to learn the love that I have for you, when you begin to understand the magnitude of grace and what that means, then you're going to start seeing those plans I have for you. It's going to start opening up, and you're going to start walking in that path. You're going to start seeing all the good stuff that I have for you. But here's the deal. You got to stop running to your friends. You got to stop running to the world for the solutions or those substances that you run to escape from the realities of this world. If you stop doing those types of things, you'll start hearing more clarity from God, more wisdom from Him. You'll start seeing the plans that He has for you. See, how funny is it that when Me as a Christian, I say it all the time. I'll say, man, you just got to trust in God. God's got this. This past week, I witnessed a car wreck. And I jumped out of the car and I ran over. It was two elderly women. They had been hit from behind. So I jumped out and I went to check on them. And I put my head in the window because I wanted to see their bodies to make sure they were okay. And so I said, are you ladies okay? Yeah, we think so. And they were looking at each other and I'm looking at them, making sure everything's okay. And I said, and so, 911 was called and all that stuff. And so then right before I left them, I said, God's got this. Right? Jesus is in control. And they gave me that look of I don't know about this. Right? And I think what's happened is that statement of trust God has been a cliche statement that's been placed on a lot of people's heads, like in their heads, that it's just like, because we see it on coins, we see it everywhere, trust God. But sadly, though, we need to understand this isn't some trite statement that we say to just make people feel better. It should be a continual reminder that God's trust has value. There's value in that trust. There's value in that statement. That when we say trust God, it's not a matter of, well, that's just something nice to say, like you just get better or God bless you or whatever. No, there's value in that statement that people should place and go, you're right. For God knows the plans that he has for me, plans to prosper. I'm going to rest in knowing that God's in control. I hope to and pray to God that every one of you in this room, that if you ever see me with my head down, that you say to me, trust God. That I don't take it as this cliche statement, but I take it as a real valuable statement in my life, that I receive it and I say, you're right. I know God. I know his trust. Even Job finally got to this part in his life through all of the turmoil that was struck on him, from the wisdom that his friends tried to give him. He finally had the understanding of God's wisdom. In Job chapter 12, verse 13, to God belong wisdom and power, counsel and understanding are his. Are his. So in those moments when I looked at those two women in the car, I said to them, hey, listen, you got to trust God in this. God's going to take care of you. Okay, because they were concerned. They were obviously concerned. And I said, hey, listen, God's good. You're all right, right? Yeah, physically they're okay. And I said, well, now, guess what? God's in control. Jesus got you, all right? And they gave me that look like unsure. And I was like, ooh, I could see it in their eyes of that, I don't know, right? Well, that's the thing. We've got to work on of knowing our trust in God. So why should we trust him? Well, we actually read this in Romans chapter 8, verse 31 through 39. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Who will bring any charge against us, those whom God has chosen? It is God who justifies. Who then is the one who condemns? No one. Christ Jesus, who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. This is it. For us, some of you may say, well, you just read a bunch of words. Guys, I got to tell you, my relationship with Jesus brings value to these words because I know who he is. When I hear these words, then I'm comforted with the promise of knowing that no one can stand against me because I have God who is for me. And with God being for me, I look at all the things that happen in the natural and I go, that's okay. It doesn't matter. God is for me. He makes a way. He comes in, and in those moments of trouble, in those moments of obviously unwavering moments, those moments where I go, and you sit there and you go, no, I need trust. God comes in and he tells me, I am in control, for I know the plans I have for you. We always try to figure things out, right? We always are trying to figure things out, always. And it's so annoying. It's so annoying. And I got to tell you, I'm really not very good at figuring things out. By the end of it all, when I look back and the 2020 vision of looking back in the past, and I go, man, I was way off. I had no idea, right? No idea. I had some crazy moments in my own life. When I try to figure stuff out, it's never how it is. Never. God's got at this. And I've got to stop trying to put my thoughts into other people's heads too. Well, they're going to think this way. They're going to do this way. They're going to do that. They're going to do this. And I'm thinking, what in the world, right? And I get all boiled up inside with trying to figure out people's thoughts, people's decisions. And that's what you say, no. God's in control. Right. God takes care of it. Listen, you remember Pharaoh? Pharaoh would not let the people go, right? God moves in and does something to the Pharaoh's heart. God comes in and he takes care of things. That's where we've got to realize God comes in, he speaks to us. You all know it. You've all been in situations where God's spoken to you and you're like, oh, I need to do this. If God's doing it to you, he's doing it to other people that you're in situations with. And I've had a boss before that was a micromanager. I had a boss that was, really hard to deal with. He was controlling at times. It was difficult to get anything done. I didn't know what to do. And I heard the still small voice, you just need to pray. And I prayed and I prayed and I needed something taken care of for personal benefit. And so I walked into the office, man, was I just nervous beyond belief, right? I was nervous because I was just anticipating the answer. But I prayed, I said, God, you give me the wisdom, right? God, you speak into his heart and bring favor into this situation. Sure enough, I brought up my particular need, and I said, hey, this is what needs to take place, and this, and this, and this. And sure enough, no reason other than just the mere fact God was in the room, because there was no benefit for this to happen. My boss looked at me and said, sure, I think that's a great idea. Let's do that. We'll start that tomorrow. Right? And then I had to make sure I didn't look too excited or too shocked. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Yes, you walk out of the office punch dancing with excitement. Because that is those moments where if God speaks to you, God speaks to other people. Stop trying to figure out what they're going to say. Go in there with God's presence on your life, speaking to God and saying, God, you give me the right words to say. God, you intervene in this situation. God, I'm giving you this situation. I'm letting you in control of this situation. And sure enough, God works in those moments. God is for you. Who could be against you? We got to learn how to simply just trust. Simply trust God. When we trust God, you're serving him. And that is huge. You serve God in the magnitude of who he is, but it's the magnitude of knowing this, his love. His love is infinite. His love is always there. It abounds above everything. And that, my friend, is the trust value of it all, of knowing his love. When you understand his love and his desire for you, you've become set free. And that is so valuable. In Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. That's what it's all about. In those moments where you finally just go, you know what? I'm going to talk to God. Naaman finally, he gets his head straight. He goes, you know what? I'm just going to go dip myself in this river. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. This is just silly of me. I'm going to rest. I'm going to relax. And I'm going to do it. I'm not going to get angry about it. It's not worth anger. It's not worth the emotions. I'm just going to be real to myself, real to God. I'm going to do what he's told me to do. Instead of sitting here begging for more clarity or more wisdom, I'm going to just ask God for trust. God, I'm trusting you right now. God, give me what I need. God, I rest in your knowledge, not my knowledge of the situation. God, I trust that you are going to see this through. Right now, I got to tell you guys, in the physical realm of trying to buy a new building for this church, it's heavy. In the physical realm, I see the dollar figures, and I see it all, and I hear everybody's opinion about the dollar figure of things. I hear the naysayers of church in general. Church is all about money. So then, you hear that when you start thinking about a building project or something of the sort. People will come up out of the woodworks and be like, all church is about is money. That's all they care about. I got to tell you, I don't care one stinking bit about money. What I care about is God's kingdom here on this earth. That's where my heart is. My heart is to see God's kingdom grow, and I want to do it effectively. And a lot of times we can look at the natural, we can hear the naysayers, we can hear all the people, and quite frankly, I just want to hear God's voice. And when it comes to the dollar figure of what that looks like, the millions of dollars that it's going to cost or whatever the case may be, a lot of times people say, oh, the church, they need to suffer. They don't need the nice stuff. And I go, whoa, that's not true at all. Man, did you see Solomon, how he did it? He did it up good, right? People on the outside looked in and they were like, how in the world? This is unbelievable, right? It was awesome. People talked about it all around the world during Solomon's time, about how he built the temple and how he did it and how the soldiers and the priests were all structured. It was beautifully perfect. And so for us, when we prepare ourselves for this next move, there's going to be some moments of trust in God. There's going to be some big hurdles we're going to have to jump over and some walls we're going to have to tear down. We're going to have to see some blood, sweat, and tears for sure. A lot of us in this room, we're digging foundations. We're in the trenches of war, if you want to put it. Whatever metaphor you want to use right now. I look at this in the book of Nehemiah. I think of the one sword in hand. Well, we're battling off the enemy and the words the enemy throws at us and the fiery darts. And we get ourselves into a situation where we're building and we're not nonstop. We're ready. We're preparing ourselves for something great. When money moments arise, we just trust in God that He's going to come in. He's going to fulfill those needs. All of those needs, not just some of those needs, but all of those needs. Guys, I tell you what, God's doing something here at Trailhead Church. We've already seen it, and we're seeing things continue to move. But I got to tell you, vision at hand right now, it's important, is that we get together. We unify ourselves together as we go towards this move. That we all understand the vision at hand. That vision at Trailhead Church is finding God's way, finding a new way, finding a way that works with God's plan, not this world's plans. Because too often the world's told us, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, got to do this. And so we say we got to find a better way. We find God's way in what He has for us, not the world's way. So in the world's view, we have to go this to the bank, we have to do this, we got to do that. No, the vision of Trailhead Church is to find God's way. We're finding His way of doing things. We're reading His Word. We're understanding His love, His grace, His understanding. And you know what? We're going to see some miraculous things take place. Those that we connect and bond during this moment, that we unify together during this. When it's all said and done and we look back, you're going to look at it and you're going to go, what in the world? How did this take place? Man, God was in this, because we're dreaming so big that it's destined to fail without God's intervention. That's huge for us. That's a big statement for us to say, but it's true. God's going to come in. We're going to see some big dollar amounts come out, and we're going to see God come in and supply those dollar amounts. Some of you may sit in this room and go, "What? It's not coming from my bank account." Don't worry, it won't. Okay? But I tell you, those that are willing and faithful to listen to God, I tell you what, it's going to be huge. It's going to be big moments, and you're going to see a harvest. And this is not some false thing. This is promises from God that we see all the time in His Word. God is faithful. You remember the woman with the oil, right? She only had a little bit of oil. Elijah, that's enough. That's plenty. That's plenty of oil. And then before you know it, she had oil forever. She just kept pouring out the oil, just kept pouring out, pouring out, pouring out. Well, I believe that to be true at Trailhead Church. As we go forward with these next few steps, we're going to see oil just keep pouring out and pouring out. We're going to have all of our needs be met. You know, we have, why are we, let me just say this real quick and I'll be done. Why are we doing this? I think we all know this. It's not because of the adults. We're doing this because of the small ones. Our children's church is growing massively and rapidly all the time. Pregnancies all the time within this church. There's 100 women pregnant right now in our church. If you're not pregnant, you probably are pregnant, all right? That's the thing. That's how this church works. It's crazy awesome. We all know that. We could easily do 2 services, not really, probably not 2 services with everyone in this sanctuary. This is a smaller sanctuary, but it'd be close to packed. We could put in more seats. People could sit Indian style. We can make this work. The problem is our children's church are packed full. So with that comes what? We have to know that God loves children. God takes care of the little ones. Everyone in this room, I know you have faith in the fact that God takes care of the little ones. So for us at this church, if you get in a moment where you go, I don't know, you got to think, oh, you know what, let me think about the little ones. Will God supply the need for the little ones? Yep. Will God give them the best? Yep. God's going to do it for the little ones. So I got to let you guys know, hey, when those moments where you go, oh, this is tough, it's the little ones. God's going to take care of the little ones. I want you to keep that vision in your head that the little ones, God's going to supply an amazing space. He's going to give us all that we need. He always has. We've never gone without, from the small ones or to the tall ones. God is our provider. He's our supplier. He does it. So in the next few months, it's going to be hands to the plow. We're going to be doing some awesome stuff. And I look forward to seeing the trust that every one of us continue to look at each other and go, trust in God. We got to trust God at this moment. Trust God. There's some big stuff coming. Don't go to friends and murmur. That's pointless, right? They don't do a great job. Job will tell you they don't do a great job. But what you know who does a great job is God. God comes in. He supplies your need in those moments that you need Him.